is also that people are always trying to call these guys Nazis. Have you ever noticed this? Which is just the height of absurdity to me. I see this, you know, all the usual suspects. Antifa are the real Nazis posting these macros of, you know, Antifa. Antifa's new flag looks awfully like the Nazi flag, doesn't it? Antifa wears masks, just like the KKK, right? And I don't know what it is. Well, we do know what it is. But what is it, this compulsion in conservatives in the mainstream, Dinesh D'Souza types? Why are they compelled to do these mental gymnastics to prove that the Nazis were actually left-wing? Or that Antifa is the new Nazis? Or the Democratic Party is new KKK? Why? Why do we have to do that? You know, it's interesting. When I see Antifa coming down the streets, when I see them on Twitter, you know who they look an awful lot alike? You know who they look like? Communists. They look a lot to me like communists. They're waving the hammer and sickle. They're Marxists. They identify as communists. They use the same tactics as communists, as Bolsheviks. Why do we have to call them Nazis? Why can't we call them left-wing anarchists? Why can't we call them communists? Why can't we call them Bolsheviks? Why do we have to do these mental gymnastics to say, but they're actually Nazis? The Nazis used intimidation, and that's the same. I don't know, man. If Antifa were marching down the streets and they were waving the banner of Benito Mussolini or Francisco Franco, I'd be joining them, frankly. If Antifa was waving the banner of phalangism, if they were waving the banner of Franco, and they were saying, you know, Catholic fascism now, I would join them. I would become a part of Antifa. I would welcome Antifa.
Después de Dios, la patria está por encima de todo en la tierra. Y es obligación nuestra defenderla hasta morir. La patria es amor, respeto y veneración a nuestra historia, lengua y creencia. El que no ama a su madre es un tipo repugnante que no merece el respeto de la sociedad. El que no ama a nuestra madre España es un ser degenerado y no merece vivir en la patria a la que odia. Quien dice patria, dice historia propia.
Yes, take over the country. Storm D.C., take over the Capitol, raise the banner of Mussolini and Franco and, you know, some notable others, right? Oswald Mosley, that would be a great thing.
It's a great nation. Comes a moment of justice, comes a moment of death. And this nation again and again in the great hours of its fate has swept aside convinced, has swept aside the little men of token of delay, and has decided to...
Oh, they're wearing black just like Oswald Mosley. Based? Sign me up. But they're not doing that. No, but they're not doing that. What does Antifa even mean? Of course, anti-fascist. And they're not marching down the streets advocating for fascist Catholic governance. They're not marching down the street advocating for a centralized corporatist state and all that. They're marching down the streets advocating for the abolition of gender and pedophilia and gay marriage and abortion and women's liberation and the liberation of colored people around the world. I mean, this is what they're marching for. So, I'm sorry, I don't believe that's what Hitler stood for. I don't believe that's what Mussolini stood for. I don't believe Francisco Franco came to power on a platform of anti-religion, communism, abolishing gender. I think there's some substantive differences. And so what this again shows is that the right wing is operating with the left-wing moral framework. That's what these two contentions, that's what they represent. When the right says Antifa is bad because they're attacking gay journalists, when the right says Antifa is bad because they're like the Nazis, what are you really saying? You're saying we buy wholesale the left's narrative that the worst thing you can be in 2019 is a racist Nazi. And so that's why we have to make the left the racist Nazis. You know, they call us that and we say, no, you. You know, the media says the worst thing you can be is a racist Nazi. And, you know, these are the all these white people and Donald Trump, and we say, no. But you're actually the Nazis. You're actually the racist ones. Well, it doesn't work. You're using their framework. Have you ever noticed that left-wing people, they don't try to convince you that Joseph Stalin was right-wing. They don't try to convince you that Mao Zedong was right-wing. They just don't talk about Mao Zedong. They just don't talk about Joseph Stalin. Why would they? They're left-wing. They're communists in many senses. They're anarchists. And so those are their ideological or spiritual antecedents. And it's not convenient for them to talk about them in 2019 because they killed a lot of people. So they just don't. And right-wing people, instead of adopting the same mentality of, well, you know, fascists are ostensibly right-wing, you can make some arguments that National Socialism was unique and different, and I've heard all this before, and we shouldn't really own that. I get all that. Just don't talk about it. Why do you have to make them the Nazis when they're communists? Communists are bad, too. Communists are worse than fascists. Leftists are worse than fascists. The problem is that right-wing people do not want to argue from a right-wing moral framework. They are incapable of arguing that leftism is bad in itself, and that's because, in many ways, they are leftists themselves. They subscribe to leftism themselves. They will never oppose leftism, anarchism, Bolshevism in the way that people successfully did in Europe, because if you were to offer substantive arguments against leftism, you'd be called a reactionary. You would be called a fascist. You know, to say that things like, things that oppose the traditional family are bad in themselves, you'd have to oppose feminism in itself. Not say, I'm the real feminist because I really want equality for women. You'd have to say feminism is bad in itself. It undermines the traditional family. We just got out of Pride Month. You'd have to say, instead of saying, Trump actually supports gay people. Isn't that terrific? And, we're okay with them now. Just don't, just keep it in your bedroom. Everybody to each their own. You would have to say we oppose homosexuality in itself. It undermines the traditional family, and on, right? But it seems like the only thing that conservatives are willing to contest about leftism in itself is like abortion and maybe a few other things. But everything else they've conceded on for 25 years. And that's why they have to do this. Oh, you're Nazis, you're the real Nazis. Because the only real thing that the right opposes is so-called authoritarianism or socialism or whatever. But they have no moral core besides that. And that's why they're constantly searching. That's why they constantly have to do this Nazi shtick, this you're the real fascist, you're the real racist shtick. How about we don't care about racism? Ever thought of that? You're a racist, you're a racist. How about instead of saying, no, we're not, you're the racist, how about instead we say, who cares? We're racist. Maybe we're not, but so what? I mean, that really doesn't matter. What matters is having an orderly country. What matters is having an orderly country based upon wholesome, virtuous families. How about you're all pedophiles? How about you defend disgusting perversions and degeneracy? And that's repulsive to any normal person. How about you support abortion? You support all this sick stuff that's happening in the country. You support foreign wars. You support usury. How about that as a moral core, as opposed to saying, no, but you guys are the ones that are mean to black people. Nobody's mean to black people. Black people are the most protected class in the country today. You can't even say bad things about them. You can't even say the N-word. We're going to pretend they're oppressed. We're going to pretend that left-wing people being racism is a problem. Nobody being racist is a problem, right? So let's just stop using their moral framework. And the same is true with Nazis. There's no Nazis today. There's no fascists today. If there were fascists, I don't know. I mean, wouldn't they be the better alternative, right?
Possivelmente, para alguns, associação transitória ou permanente de interesses materiais, a nação é para nós, sobretudo, uma entidade moral que se formou, através de séculos, pelo trabalho e solidariedade de sucessivas gerações, ligadas por afinidades de sangue e de espírito, e a que nada repugna crer esteja atribuída no plano providencial uma missão específica no conjunto humano. Só esse peso do sacrifício sem conta, da cooperação de esforços, da identidade de origem, só esse património coletivo, só essa comunhão espiritual, podem moralmente alicerçar o dever de servi-la e dar a vida por ela. Tudo pela nação, nada contra a nação.
Donald Trump is a fascist. We say, no, he's not. Hillary Clinton is. If Hillary Clinton was more fascist than Trump, I got a newsflash for you. I would be voting for Trump, right? That's not to say I'm a fascist. I'm a campus conservative. But it is to say we have to build up a authentic right wing with a right-wing moral core and right-wing arguments. But instead, we just get left-wing lights. We just get, no, but we're actually leftists. We oppose racism too, and they're the real ones. Doesn't work.